everyone. Dan Tortora here for another edition of The Light Between Us. I am here with Bobbi Kochman of Chick-fil-A Cicero on 7916 Brewerton Rd in Cicero, New York. And of course, you know that The Light Between Us comes right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, exclusively brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero. Bobbi, very happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Well, when Betty and Jimmer speak highly of somebody, you got to trust that. So they've said many nice things in a very short amount of time about you and your work ethic.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
So
they're the amazing ones, so I'm so grateful for them.
You have your kids.
Yes.
And you work.
Yes.
And we were talking about how people a lot of times think you have to choose. That I'm going to be at home with my kids, or I'm actually going to go and just get a job and focus on that. I believe that people can do both. Mm-hmm. You're living both. Why is working for you so rewarding along with having your kids?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I was never in a position where I could ever actually stay home with my kids financially. But so we're kind of, you know, I did the full-time thing once my kids were all in school full-time. I decided to get a full-time job. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was, you know, it took me away from them in the evenings. You know, I would get out at 5, 6, 7, and it was just too much. And so it was one of those things where I said, you know, I really just need something. I don't know if it exists or if any place will let me where I work just the hours that they're in school.
Yeah.
So I messaged a friend that I had that worked here because I saw that she worked here and I didn't know she did. And I said, man, I would always love to work at Chick-fil-A. Like, everyone just seems like they're always so happy and it just seems like such a great place to work. And so I messaged her and I said, will they let me just work days, not nights and weekends, because I hadn't found a place like that where that was an option. Just the hours, you know, and that my kids are in school. And she said, yeah, you know, they should. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna try it. If it doesn't work out as far as they won't, you know, I have to work nights and weekends, then, you know, it's just not for me. But they were very, like, generous and just willing to let me work what I could work. You know, I have 3 kids with special needs, so it's a lot. It's a lot at home. My personal life is a lot. So I needed a work environment that wasn't so mentally taxing.
Yeah.
So I, you know, that's sort of my long story answer to your question. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. So you have 3 kids at home with special needs. What has that experience been like for you to kind of navigate through? Because and I want to preface by saying this. So I grew up on Court Street on the north side in Syracuse, and growing up there, right down the road, there was a home for people with special needs, and it was like, you know, different people needing different needs and whatnot, but they all could kind of call this place home.
Yep.
And when I would come home from Our Lady of Pompeii, our bus route would take us right over there by the home before they would drop me off at my house. And one of the guys would always stand there right by the Big M Market at the time, and he would wave at the bus. And then one of the other gentlemen that was there would walk by my house and he'd watch me play basketball. And I'd ask him sometimes, like, do you want to play? And he just wanted to watch. Mm-hmm. Well, COVID happened, so all these years later, many, many years later, COVID's going on, and I go into Wegmans, and you always wonder, like, are they okay? How are they doing? Because I don't think that home is a home for people with special needs anymore, so I didn't know, like, where they went.
Yeah.
And I'm in Wegmans, and I'm going down an aisle, and one of the guys that I remember from my childhood is there in the aisle, and he's picking out his groceries, and I looked up at God and I just said thank you, and I looked at him and I just kind of stared at him for a while. Some of the warmest, kindest, most beautiful hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that the world doesn't really understand how special needs people are.
Yeah.
So I'd love to speak with you on the fact that you're a mom of those that have special needs, and how there's beautiful souls that I'd love for you to share, because you're with it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost feel like a drill sergeant at home. Thankfully, my kids are pretty, you know, high functioning. My daughter has autism, but she's, you know, very high functioning in a lot of ways. My boys, you know, have more things. You know, I have one with ADHD and anxiety. I've got one with a processing delay. So it's you know, they're invisible disabilities. To, you know, for them to walk around, people wouldn't know. You know, so, you know, we call it in the human services field invisible disabilities. And I think sometimes those can be even harder because, you know, it's not someone that, you know, has a physical disability. It's not someone that uses a wheelchair. It's, you know, people just think that they're weird. And so that's hard. It's hard as a mom, you know, because thankfully the world is getting a lot more inclusive. So I am thankful for that. You know, I'm thankful that I really get to, you know, watch the world become a better place for people with special needs than it was when I was a kid. Right. But there's still a long way to go as far as education and, you know, really a big thing is, as a mom, is it's almost like it's embarrassing when your kid does something and you're in public. And I've worked in the human services field. I worked in the human services field for 20 years. So it was, and I even still feel that. And so I think it's a common thing. I think for even parents of neurotypical kids, they you know, your kid does something in public and it's embarrassing. But when it's something that's a little bit more, how do I put this, like not the norm, you know, as far as society would say is the norm, then it's difficult to not have that, like, oh gosh, you know, like, how am I going to explain this? You almost feel like you have to explain your child when you don't. You know, that's my hang up. That's the person that's going to have an issue with my kid. That's their hang up. That's not my child's hang up. You know, like my daughter is very outgoing. She's autistic, but she's so outgoing and she's so loving. Sometimes we have to rein that in, and I'm like, geez, why am I doing this? I just need to let her be, you know, it's different, those prompts and reminders about how to act socially, but if anybody's embarrassed by her, that's their problem. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's such a complex, you know, thing, the whole, you know, world of disabilities, but I'm just so thankful. I mean, you know, there's people with disabilities that work here at Chick-fil-A, and you know, I'm hoping that maybe one day my kids can have that ability too. You know, so thankful that Jimmer, you know, hires people of all abilities. So.
Yeah, and you bring up owner-operator Jimmer Szatkowski, and I mean, he's a very special human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
We met before this location, the first ever Chick-fil-A in Central New York opened. We met when there was a trailer and they were still working on here, and he brought me through this dining room, all the dust and everything from all the work that they've been doing, and he's telling me where things are going to go, and booths have, you know, they're covered, and they're saying, oh, this is, you know, so we're going to put the play place and whatnot. And something about him, the day I met him, I was like, we're working together. That's it. And you take that into a work relationship, which turns into a friendship, and now he's a brother to me.
Yeah.
Like, to me, we came from the same mom. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And he's just an incredible human being. And you said that Jimmer hires people of all different abilities. What has it been like to work for someone who sees the world in a way that you would hope many see it? He's kind of opened his eyes a little bit wider than others.
So what is it like to work for, I mean, it's...
Yeah, to work for someone that's so welcoming, so open, and doesn't really hold this world of prejudice and whatnot.
It's relieving, honestly. Especially as a mom, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's very hard to put into words, honestly, because, you know, people would think, what's the big deal? Like, and I've told Betty and Jimmer before, you know, for them to be able to just allow me to work the hours that my kids are in school and be that flexible, and just for them to really say, you know what, we know your kids, your family come first. You know, whatever you need has just been, because I haven't always had that at other jobs I've been at. You know, but I'm so thankful that I have that here. So incredibly thankful. And I tell them that all the time, and I get emotional about it all the time, because, you know, when you're really in the trenches with your kids, especially when you're, you know, a special needs mom, you know, you give and you give and you give of yourself, and you feel like your cup is not, a lot of times you're trying to pull from an empty cup yourself. And so I'm just thankful that I can come to a place and work where I know that I'm not gonna, I don't want to say I'm not gonna dread it, you know, because there's been not any jobs that I've ever dreaded that I've had, but going to, but just where I have that sense of, okay, I don't have to go there and work and have it be this mind-bending, crazy, mentally stressful thing. You know, I can come and I can interact with people, and I can, you know, just have that, and then the craziness can begin when I get home again. You know, that's where it's mentally taxing. So, you know, it was just, you know, just one of those things where I was just comfortable, you know, coming to work and being like, oh yes, you know, I'm so glad I can just get up and I don't have to stress so much about mental things at work, where I can just come and, you know, I'm physically running all over the place, you know, my body's a little tired when I leave, but you know, Jimmer, I could not ask for a better boss than Jimmer, and he's just so giving and so, you know, I tell him this, I was just telling him a couple minutes ago, I don't a lot of times get a chance to say that enough, because I'm running around and everything, but just so thankful that I get to work here and have the flexibility that I have.
Yeah, you know, and I appreciate you sharing that and sharing your experience, and I'm not surprised. I mean,
yeah.
Jimmer being the favorite boss, the person who just feels different. It feels like it feels like you're in another home.
Yeah,
you know?
That really is how it is. And, you know, the people that I work with are like, you know, they're like family to me. And, you know, almost like, because a lot of them are younger people too, so I feel like sort of like this mom. But it's, you know, and my work kids, I guess I could say I call them that, you know, jokingly sometimes, but yeah, just, you know, just such a wonderful environment, and, you know, he does so much for the community too, not just Chick-fil-A, you know, it's, you know, he's just a community guy, you know, he gives so much back, and, you know, everybody knows his name, and,
yeah.
You know, just thankful doesn't even begin to cover it.
No. And he, you know, being as caring as he is, and you having the care that you have, like you said, having these children of yours, these beautiful kids that, like you said, it's the world's hang up. It's not my hang up. It's not their hang up. You know, it's me just loving them for who they are.
Yep, absolutely.
I want you to tell me individually, to share first name of each of your kids, and tell me what you love about each of them the most, like individually what sticks out, because, and I'm asking this question selfishly because I want to be a dad someday, and I see how your eyes are and how your face kind of reacts when you talk about your kids, so I know that they mean a lot to you.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know your favorite thing about each of them.
My Jackson, he's 15. He is hilarious.
Okay.
He's so animated. So my husband and I were like this when we were younger. We've tried to taper it down a little bit as we've gotten older. Very goofy, you know, the type of family where...
You keep talking. I got to see you to Jimmer.
Oh, no, you're fine.
You keep talking.
The type of kid that really just, you know, he's a light to everyone he meets. He's big, he's animated, he's hilarious, like my husband, honestly. And so probably my favorite thing about him is just how he loves and how he's just such a big personality. just a light, a big, bright, shining light, honestly.
Jackson's comedy and his life. Okay.
Yes, yep. He could do some sort of stand-up comedy or something one day if he could get his timing right.
Let's do it.
My Levi, he's 12. He's almost 13. He's my middle child, so he's quieter. He's the one that, you know, my straight A student, my thoughtful kid. He's my, you know, he likes to really know how things work. So he's into cars, he's into trains, he's into, you know, like, he's got that engineering brain, I guess you could say. Honestly, for him, probably just his thoughtfulness, his kind heart. That's probably my favorite thing about him. His just being, the fact that he can take his time and he doesn't feel like he has to rush through everything. You know, he has a processing delay, which is part of that. You know, why he takes his time is he can't necessarily help it in a lot of ways, but he also is, you know, is thoughtful in that. So that's probably one of my favorite things about him. Is just his ability to, you know, when the rest of the world is rushing by, he's like, you know what? You know, I'm gonna, of course, we're like, come on, pick up the pace, you know, like, it can be like that too a little bit, but, you know, if it needs to be, but just, you know, his thoughtfulness in how everything in this world works, and constantly asking questions, wanting to know more, so wanting to grow that knowledge about anything and everything that his brain is thinking about. So that's probably my favorite thing about my Levi. My Aria, she's 10. She's going to be 11. She has autism. And she is a giant cheerleader for everyone around her. She reads emotions so well, which is not typical for someone on the spectrum. You know, a lot of times emotions they don't understand or are ignored with people that have autism. So the fact that she has that gift is really amazing because she has the ability to see if somebody's upset, if someone's sad, if someone's angry, and she reads and reacts to that. She'll be the first one to go over and ask someone if they're okay, you know, give them a hug, and encourage someone. Come on, you can do it. Like, you can. So, you know, we call her our cheerleader. That's my absolute favorite thing about her, and the fact that she's so brave. She is a very tall girl. My husband's 6'7", so she takes after her father. But she, with her tall stature, she has confidence.
Yeah.
You know, just so much confidence. And I'm so grateful for that, because I know a lot of young girls don't necessarily have that. And that's a huge, huge thing that's important to us as parents too, is, you know, her confidence, and we're thankful that she has that. So.
Confidence with, wait, now do you call her Ari, or what do you call her?
Aria. Yeah,
Aria?
just Aria. Yeah.
Aria?
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked about Aria because I have an Ariana as one of my nieces. So
Gotcha.
that's why I asked.
Yeah.
So Aria for her confidence, Levi for his kind of help you slow down and appreciate the
Yep.
moment.
And thoughtfulness. Yep.
And thoughtfulness. And Jackson for his comedy, his wit,
Yes.
and that personality, that
Right.
that energy that he brings.
Right. Yes.
So to have that family at home and to have the family here, how has your life evolved since working at Chick-fil-A Cicero?
I would say, like, I'm able to go home and I'm able to cook dinner every night, and that was something that I didn't have before. You know, it might seem like such a simple thing, but it's a huge thing for, you know, my husband works from home. He's, you know, 401k account manager. So he.
What's his first name?
Matthew.
Shout out Matthew. How's Matthew? 6'7", Matthew.
Yes.
Matthew, you are almost a foot taller than me. So I hope you enjoy life up there.
Same, right?
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
Let me know when it's about to rain.
I know,
Well,
really.
My goodness.
It'll get to him first.
So
I
back
know.
then you couldn't come home and make dinner.
You know, and again, it seems like something that's really no big deal, but we were constantly buying food. We just had every giant family that's trying to budget and trying to be financially responsible.
And with a bunch
economy.
of kids too.
Right, exactly. And so that was a thing that that was important to me, is coming home, cooking a meal for the family and being able to help the kids with the homework, because when they get home, it's all hands on deck, as far as helping with homework, and because a lot of things just don't come easily to the kids, my oldest, we really have to walk through the homework with him and give him reminders and all kinds of stuff, make sure that we see the assignments and that we're checking everything. It's a lot of work. So that's the evening, is homework or running them to activities, is in varsity basketball. We've got dance, we've got soccer practice, and one vehicle.
Yeah.
Of course, we wouldn't be able to do that if my husband wasn't working at home, but,
right.
So it's, that's why finding a place where I could work, specifically the hours my kids were in school, was so important to us. And I think that, if I would have said, you know what, I got to get another full-time job working, like a 9 to 5-ish type of deal, or, my husband would have said, okay, but my mental health was suffering a lot. Being a special needs mom and a working mom is a lot. It really is. So it was just, the whole dynamic has changed, as far as just, you breathe a sigh of relief every day. You're like, okay, I know I'm only working until, the hours my kids are in school, and then I can go pick them up from school, and then I can cook dinner, and I can help them with homework, and I can be there. I don't have to worry about someone else watching them, about, my husband having to do it all himself. I can be there, and that's worth more than gold to us as a family.
So, rising through adversity, what have you learned about yourself?
That, I need to give myself more grace, as far as what I have to do on a daily basis, but also that I can do things that are hard, but I also don't have to. I guess the biggest thing I should say that I've learned about myself is that I don't have to give, how do I put this? I don't have to literally kill myself to be a mom and to be a homemaker and to work and to do all of these things. I can have it all, but at the same time, I'm not a robot, I'm a human being. Yeah. So I'm gonna get tired, I'm gonna, there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be bad days, but I've learned that, I can give myself grace, which is something that I've learned over the years that I have to give myself. So, whereas, it's very easy to try to put yourself down and to be upset with yourself because you can't do it all necessarily. But, so giving myself grace, really leaning into, the Lord and saying, you know what? I was never designed, none of us were ever designed to function without Him. And when we try, we fail. It's as simple as that. And I have to remind myself that on a daily basis. But, really being able to work here and have that flexibility is, like I said, worth more than gold to me. And I've just learned, again, giving myself grace, that's the biggest thing, and asking Him for grace.
So, the final piece, and it's just been nice. You have a very warm, welcoming personality.
Oh, thank you.
You know that. So I feel very comfortable. I feel like the interview the conversation just starts with us talking.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Your faith in God. Why do you have it? And if someone is struggling out here right now that's watching us, what would you say?
Well, I have it because, I grew up in a Christian home, but, as many know that have a personal relationship with Jesus, you really have to find your own walk with Him as you get older. It's no longer about mom and dad. It's about, what has Jesus done in your life? What has, if you're not really leaning into Him, studying the Bible. You know, you need I tell my kids this too, you know, you need to find your own relationship with the Lord. And, you know, so as far as, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Just what you would say to somebody struggling with that, and maybe hasn't been open.
Yeah. You know, as I was saying, you know, just a couple of minutes ago, it's crazy to me how people think, you know, it can be unsaved people, it can be people that are trying to rely more, you know, a lot on themselves, but again, we were never designed to function without Him, and when we try, we're going to fail. It's as simple as that. And I think that's why so many people are looking for answers in this world. You know, they're looking for happiness, they're looking for satisfaction, and the only person that can give that satisfaction is Jesus. You know, He's the only thing that can satisfy. And when we're looking for that in other places, we're just never going to find it. We're never going to have that satisfaction and that fulfillment in anything other than Him. So that's what I can say, you know, to anyone that's really struggling is, you know, you're struggling because if you're relying on yourself, and I do this daily, you know, I have to remind myself, stop, Bobbi, you know, He's got this. Is that, you know, really just, you know, turn to Him, and, you know, then you're going to have that peace and that satisfaction, and like, you know what? God's got this. I try my best. My mom used to say when we were little, try your best and let Jesus do the rest, or let God do the rest, you know, and it's such a simple little saying, you know, from my childhood, but it's true. You know, it's the words ring true. You know, just, you do your best in your life, you do your best, and then you let God do the rest. And you know, when it's too heavy, which it will get quickly, because again, us as humans, we were never designed to function without the Lord. You know, when it gets too heavy, you know, I can just say, you know what, God, I need you to take this. I need you to take this from me, because I don't have it. I'm not you. I'm a human. I'm imperfect without you, and I just need you to take it. And it's such a freeing thing to be able to just be like, here you go, God. So yeah, give it to Him. That's my best, and I know it's easier said than done, but again, just remembering that piece of God didn't design us to function without Him. It's like a car with no gas. So, you know, when you try, you're going to fail. It's as simple as that.
And it's that self-perpetuating wheel, essentially, of I don't believe because I'm not getting it done on my own, so I'm going to keep doing it on my own because He doesn't exist, and I'm not going to believe because it didn't happen.
Right.
And,
yep.
You know, it's amazing.
And our time is not God's time. And I tell my kids this, you know, my son will say, well, I pray and nothing happens. Of course, you know, he's got the ADHD and he has that impulsivity, so he just will say, and I'm like, son, you just keep praying. You just keep plugging away. You try your best. You keep praying for it. You know, I mean, how many times did, you know, Job had so many things taken from him in the Bible, and just keep saying, you know what, God, you're in control. I'm going to praise you anyway. I'm going to praise you in this storm. And so that's, you know, that's what I try to remind myself daily and tell the kids and remind them, you know, again, while also saying, you know, your relationship with the Lord is your own, and really sort of trying to foster them in how that works as far as, you know, a prayer life and devotional life and things like that. So you never stop teaching as a parent.
No, and I know that, and I appreciate all the teachable moments from my parents to this day.
Yeah.
It's funny, because in the Bible, when the devil said to God, I'm going to make Job curse your name, and he was like, all right, bet money. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And
yeah.
then he took all that stuff away, and Job was like, hey, I still love you.
Yep, right, exactly.
And what God gave it all back.
Yep.
And it gave it tenfold.
Absolutely.
So.
And that's, you know, it's so, I mean, heck, most of us would be like, you know what? Lord, I love you, but what are you doing? You know, like, but Job had that crazy, crazy faith that a lot of us might not have as much as we would want to, you know, as much as we try to say we would, but I mean,
faith is that it's easy to believe when you sit on a pile of money and you got all these cars,
absolutely.
and you got everything you asked
Yep.
for, and you got this great job, and you're on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
But God's like, can you still praise me if you were sitting on a bunch of hot coals and you were on an abandoned island by yourself in the middle
Yeah.
of nowhere with no food, nothing to drink, and no hope that you're going to survive?
Yeah,
Would
absolutely.
you still be with me when it looks like I'm not with you?
Right,
Because that's
exactly.
faith. Faith
Right.
isn't everything's perfect. Are you with me?
Yeah,
Because
right.
I mean, everybody will be with you there.
Yeah, right.
But it's funny how they say that people that believe in God and don't believe in God, when life gets too terrible to bear, whether they believe or not, they all say, God, where you at?
Right, exactly.
Isn't that funny? They all call on Him
Yeah.
when they need Him.
Yeah.
But do we call on Him to say thank you when we have what we need?
That's exactly it. Or, once, if you have a pile of money and all these cars and the Lord has blessed you in, whatever way, are you still going to seek His face? And, even when you have these things and life is going well, you could turn it that way too. Because that's almost like, and then sometimes people will say, God, in difficult times, where are you? But in times when it's like, okay, all right, I got this. Well, we don't ever got it. He's got it. And regardless of if, it's good times or bad times, are you seeking His face just as much? Are we seeking His face just as much in the good times as we are in the bad as well? That's another thing that, because it's very easy to just be like, okay, life's good. And we're so, when times are bad, it's God, what are you doing? Like what?
Yeah. And when times are good, we should be saying, God, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. Or God, thank you for not just asking Him for things. I tell my kids this. It's not just, God, what can you do for me? It's thank you. Like I get
How
to.
can I help you?
Right. Exactly. Or, I get to wake up and breathe fresh air and use my legs to get out of bed, or, things that, we're richer than 95% of people in this world if we have a roof over our heads and food in our bellies and
Love in our hearts.
Right. And people that we love, that love us. Those are the most, the richest things in life that you can have. So
Bobbi and I are going to do a show every week. We're going to bring it to you here from Chick-fil-A so that we can give you this wonderful advice here. But Bobbi, it has been my absolute pleasure to have you here with the light between us. Like I said,
Thank you, Dan.
one of the easiest conversations I've ever had in my life.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Of course. And so I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your kindness, your generosity, your giving nature, and the fact that you have trusted God throughout the process. I know nobody's perfect. We all have our moments. We have our impatient moments. We have our frustrating moments. But the fact that you're here today doing what you love, working in a place, being fulfilled there, being a mom, being a wife, serving God, and being willing to talk about that openly. I just want to tell you that on your worst day, you got here through all the worst ones and the good ones and the in-between ones, and I'm happy that you got to this conversation so that I can tell you, keep going.
Thank you, Dan. That means
Keep
so
going.
much to me. Thank
Well,
you.
that's not coming from me.
Yeah.
That's not coming from me. That's coming through me
Yeah.
from somebody a lot better than me. Keep going.
Thank you. Yes, will do. And people like Jimmer make it easier.
I can attest to that. So with the light between us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we're with you every single month, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero at Chick-fil-A Cicero with their team members, reminding you that there's a light in you. There's a light between us all, and sometimes you just gotta share our light and help somebody light their own candle. As we always say here on Wake Up Call, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk with you soon. Take care. Thanks, Bobbi.
God bless, guys. Thanks, Dan. This was great. Bye, guys.